Here we go with part 3 of this series on an incomplete build of Final Fantasy Reconstructed, a Romhack of Final Fantasy 1. I have buffed up magically to level 8 and I've saved up close to 10,000 extra gold. I'm just checking my stats on everything. I haven't bought anything with the exception of Bolt 2, the level 3 spell for my Black Mage, which just helped in doing some leveling out there on the open sea. So I'm going to be picking up some spells now and some equipment. Temper, most notably, for black. And some of these early white spells are tricky ones, but I'm going to want Invis, and I'm also going to pick up Mute here, just in case. I noticed that in some of the hacks, the Mute spell becomes really effective, where in the vanilla version it was hard to land on enemies that you would want to land it on anyway. But enemies that have really tough AI scripts with lots of nasty multi-targeting abilities or instant killing spells could be really easily taken out with Mute. In Final Fantasy Restored, you notice I get to land Exfer on Chaos and then can mute Chaos, which is nice. And that, remember, is a shot at making the game function how it, quote-unquote, maybe was supposed to have functioned. Here you can see Esper the Fighter has picked up a second hit. Bolt 2 is doing massive damage. It appears that the spell doubling, at least just from glancing at it in a small sample size, it seems like the spell damage and doubling works more or less the same. Again, without a full readme of it, I can't tell you that definitively. But the way spells work is they have a range, and if they have there's a 2-hit roll and then a damage range. And if they land their 2-hit roll, then their damage range gets doubled. That's a very simple way to put it. Yeah, I'm taking on these battles with much more ease now, thanks to having access to that Bolt 2 spell. So I did pick that up just to make grinding easier, because I don't like doing lots of grinding on videos. The innkeepers have a geomancer from Final Fantasy V flavor to them with their little nightcaps. And the Elfland graphics, again, we're showing more of the color palette of the NES. We have a few different shades of green represented. Now here I'm just picking up some other level 3 spells. And you notice that the prices are different. I think level 3 spells are 1,500 in the vanilla version. Here they're 1,200. And at the weapon shop, we don't have a silver sword, which is a common change. Noticing there is no reference to Erdrick or Link in those in the graves right there, as there is in the vanilla version from the US. There's another reference to the Northwest Castle, which we've already heard from the Pirate's Cave, and there is a reference to Astos, who hides in disguise, lurks in disguise. There's another well dialogue, more well text. And let's check out level 4, because my characters have one level 4 charge. Now, I've got A Mute, I've got Fear, I've got Pure, and I've got A Ice or X Ice. I don't need any of those right now. I may come back and get X Ice. Not going to be as effective as these spells, most notably Haste right there, which is an updated Fast. And the prices here are better also. It's 3,000 instead of 4,000 for the level 4 spells. I'm going to save on getting Fast just because I want a little bit of money to update my armor. The weapon shop doesn't have anything notable for us right now. Thanks to the fighter having picked up that longsword. There is the scimitar might be there, which is not as effective. The copper bracelets are huge. You can see I've got 4 and 58 before the copper bracelet. And I'll pick up another one here, because those mages, they really need it. Here's an iron armor. Now, the vanilla player in me says, just wait till the Marsh Cave to pick up the iron armor. Maybe, but again, not knowing what's in store for me in the Marsh Cave, I'm gonna pick it up now anyway, and if it ends up being redundant, then that's what it ends up being. You see, I have de-equipped the armor on my black belt because now he has better natural absorb that he can get from that from the basic leather armor. So I'm gonna sell that off. Sell the leather armor off from everyone, get a little bit more money back, and the cloth, because the bracelets kind of go in the armor slot, as much as that's kind of a odd thing in terms of flavor of the game. That's just the way it is. So you cannot wear both a bracelet and a piece of body armor. But the bracelets are very important for those mages, and it really bumps up their defense. So that's why I saved on buying the fast spell, because I really won't need it. As long as the Marsh Cave is set up more or less like it is in vanilla, which may be asking a lot. I won't need the fast spell because the wizards are going to be better, more easily handled with the Lit 2, the Bolt 2 spell for my Black Mage, and just some brute force from my fighters in the front rows. Because it's a multi-targeting battle, and fast or haste works better when you have single target bosses. So I may pick up fast if I can get some cash in the Marsh Cave. I may pick up fast before we jump over to Astos. And Astos, it is tough to land physical hits on him, but if you can get those criticals, you can get through his defense. So let's take a look at the weapon shop. That's right, it's not the scimitar, it's the saber. The large dagger is cheaper than the iron rod or the iron staff. Here's the elf castle. And there's that musical hiccup again. I talked about that in part 2, where it seems like when you trigger a text box, the voice in the middle of the 3 voices playing the music line will suspend its note. And the flavor here is that Astos raided the treasury of Elfland's castle. So you don't get a mystic key door there. There's a hint about Matoya, for anyone who's not familiar with Matoya. And here you can hear some of the dissonance there that happens when the that doo dee 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 doo, that scale that comes down. It's suspended on the ray of the scale coming down. Mi re do. It suspended the ray and caused some dissonance there from the text box. And again, I'm not sure if that just connects with removing the sound effect there. It doesn't affect the gameplay at all that I have seen. Just the way the music plays. And this is on FCEUX, by the way, emulator, I should note, because it may behave differently on your emulator. Notice I think the Elfland castle and town sprites are different. The castle almost has a Dragon Warrior 4 castle look to it, but I don't think it was taken from Dragon Warrior 4. The ogres at this point are still worth fighting, mostly for the gold. I've kind of outgrown where their experience is going to be valuable to me, but I could always use 300 plus gold from one battle, especially from a fight like this that's not all that threatening or dangerous. And Solo, the monk, his damage has increased because your damage goes up directly with your level. But we still haven't quite gotten to 4 hits yet. So when we hit that 4-hit threshold, it's going to be really, really nice. But 97 experience is still good for me to pick up, but it's nothing to write home about yet. And the creeps, I've always felt, are another enemy where their reward doesn't quite match their level of challenge. I know the old, you can see a different slime sprite there too, as opposed to the old NES muck slime sprite that was used for so many different enemies. Here's the Marsh Cave, we're coming up to it now. And here's a couple of ghasts. And I'm trying to decide whether or not it's worth burning a magic charge of harm to take out the ghasts. I decide against it because the Marsh Cave could have a good number of those mass groups of undead waiting inside, but as you can see in the first couple of rounds, things go south just a little bit with the paralysis of the front two characters, so just to be safe, I decide to burn the harm spell. Since I'm already planning on doing the Marsh Cave in more than one crawl anyway, I can more or less safely use that. So I'm just checking my charges. I use a couple of fires and one harm. So notice the layout of the Marsh Cave is more or less the same. On this floor, you can go up to the north. That extra little spot off to the east that kind of goes nowhere seems to have been removed, which is nice. Here you see poison popping up. In a surprise round, we get 2 characters poisoned, which is unfortunate, but thanks to the multiple buying ability of this game, you can buy 1, 4, 10, or 49 of an item from the shop. It's easier to pick up multiple pure potions, although it's still a drain on your resources, still a drain on your gold. Now, this floor has been significantly changed. We have a chest up here, and I pick up a large dagger. I declined buying one before, 17 and 12 for the black mage there. I'm going to check and see how it compares. Yes, so 10 and 22. So the hit percent has gone up by 10, but the power has gone down by 7, and because it's not quite enough to bump him up to 2 hits, I'm going to go back to the iron staff. If that was enough to get him up over 32% for 2 hits, it would probably be worth it to get an extra hit and an extra chance at a critical. But right now I will take the 1-hit damage over a little extra hit percent. Now here I run into damage tiles in the Marsh Cave, which is quite concerning, quite worrying that we have some damage tiles here in the Marsh Cave. And yeah, bat blocking my way. And there's a short sword, but I already have an upgrade to that in the long sword, so I won't need that now. The blood bones are the red skeletons, and the crawlers are the crawls. Now the crawls can paralyze. They have multiple hits, and they can paralyze. And I think the blood bones are called R-bone, red bone. In the vanilla version, you have bone, which is just skeletons, which maybe that's what the deadheads were. Maybe the deadheads are bones. In the previous video, in the Temple of Fiends, I was wondering which enemy the deadheads could be. And now I'm thinking that the deadheads are bones. And blood bones are the red bones. So this is a tricky battle because you can see the crawls knocked out both of my front row characters. They stun both of them because they get a gratuitous number of hits, and they have status attack stun. So here's harm 2, should take out the deadheads. Will do nothing to the crawl because harm only connects on undead enemies. Now 7 hits seems pretty excessive, but you notice that they don't do a lot of damage. 7 hits for 7 damage. I think that they built in 7 hits on there just to give the crawl 7 cracks at landing stun on you, so that they were reasonably sure that the crawl was going to land stun. Let me look up crawls stats. Yes, and in the vanilla version, their accuracy is 21, and they have 8 hits. They have up to 8 hits. So that lines up. That checks out. So here's the shadows. This is another one of the undead enemies you can run into, and I'm less conservative with my spells because I seem to have cleared out that upper part of the Marsh Cave without too much trouble. And so I'm going to head back and regroup. And notice my sound went away on the world map. So there's another showing of the sound hiccup of when a jingle is playing from the menu as you exit the menu back into the world map, or I'm assuming a dungeon, although I'm not sure, I haven't tested that on the dungeon. It actually drops out the music completely until you kind of reset the music cycle by getting into a battle. And I don't know what causes that or what leads to that, but that is a significant hiccup. But again, it doesn't affect gameplay, and it is easily reversible by getting into a battle or possibly by reopening your menu. I'm guessing reopening the menu will also do it. So I'm burning up my spells on the way back to Elfland here. Because I don't know what the bottom part of the Marsh Cave has in store. The Marsh Cave is extremely threatening in vanilla version. And there's a poison from the cobra, which I believe in this area, the cobra replaces the asp, A-S-P, enemy. And I'm not sure what enemy may replace the game in vanilla that is called cobra, because that is a snake you can run into later. I believe in this part of the world map you can run into just asps, and later on you can run into cobras, and you can run into sea snakes later on, which can also poison you. So there's the short sword, selling that off for some extra cash. And I decide, with the large dagger, I decide to hold on to it in case I do get close to that threshold without picking up a better weapon, to that 2-hit threshold without picking up a better weapon. But I'll keep an eye on that. So here I pick up Fire 2, which I had not before. And that will be a big help in those battles with those groups of undead. Assuming that weaknesses work the same way, which just by my observation, it seems like they do. I also haven't yet seen any of the elemental or creature-type weapons, but I'm assuming that they have been fixed. I did pick up the Temper spell, which is totally broken, totally bugged, I should say. Broken is usually a good thing when you're talking about gaming design things, but in this case, broken means just does not work. But I'm assuming that in this one they fixed it. And that combined with haste or fast, where you double your number of hits, will be a major help later on. And so that's why I wanted to have that. And that's why I did not pick up that yet for the Wizards battle, because it's not as effective against big groups of enemies, but against the Fiends and against Chaos, to be able to keep boosting up your physical fighters, to get them to double their hits and boost up their attack, you can really start pouring damage into the big enemies, the big bads. I'm going to be using a tent again, so I'm able to fight these ogre fights and take the little damage that they will do to me. Having the bracelets on the mages and having the evade, or not the evade, I should say, and the absorb of the built-in monk power makes these a little bit less threatening. So here I will even go for this battle with the ogre creep, even though the manual and the strategy guide that came with the vanilla version said that ogre creep combinations give you the best gold and experience. You forget the creep part of that. Just find ogres. I mean, sometimes you have to fight ogres with creeps, but I'm not sure why they pointed out look for the ogre creep combination, because creeps don't give you anything to write home about in terms of golden experience. Yeah, 15 gold for a creep, 1/5 gold, and 63 experience. That's to share among all the living party members. So 15 gold is certainly not significant, especially compared to 195 from the ogre. It's something like 1/12 as much gold as one ogre will give you. And a Creep has 56 hit points. And the Ogre has 100 hit points. So, yeah, 195 gold, 195 experience for the Ogres to add to your total. It's no contest. So here we go. We're saving again. I do have a copy of the algorithms guide of the vanilla version in front of me. Here's no music. And it resets when you go into the dungeon. So that part that goes off to the east there in the Marsh Cave is non-existent in this one. And here I have a little bit of indecision. I'm not quite sure what to do, but this is a significant enough fight that I'll go with Harm 2. Fire 2, it's worth it to me to burn some of those. And now what I'm hoping is that this Fire 2 just takes out everybody. So you can see the damage is doubling here on those undead. So that suggests that they're still weak. And you notice it wasn't doubling as readily on the crawls. So I did not have to use the Harm 2 charge, but the Fire 2 fired. And now here's another floor, though, that has been changed. I can see some damage tiles off to the right. Here's another gargoyle. And I just have to hope that this is still a runnable battle. And sure enough, it is. I don't know how unrunnable battles have been dealt with in this version. I am going to find that out, probably the hard way sometime in one of these dungeons coming up. Here is a zombie-ghoul combination. And I'm not sure which ones are which in this one. Zombies in vanilla have fewer hit points than the ghouls. And I will find out when this Harm fires. Oh, that I had my fighters targeting the zombies. I thought that I was having them target the ghouls, and the other zombies were around because the ghouls in the vanilla have more hit points than the zombies. But that just goes to me kind of metagaming based on my experience with the vanilla version, but having the changed sprites has thrown me off a little bit because ghouls are more whitish, their sprite, and zombies have the blue and red color to them. So looking back, the zombies there were closer to what their sprite coloration is in the vanilla version. Here I walk through those damage tiles to find nothing. And I don't know if there's something hidden there. I haven't yet found anything in a barrel in this game, but I haven't quite given up on looking for things in the barrels. The screen flashing, you'll notice, isn't showing up on this video because I do this at 30 frames per second. So things that alternate frames sometimes will not show up, like damage tiles in that case. In case you're wondering why we're not getting that effect, you can chalk that up to the frame rate. And so here I'm just getting aggro on the barrels and skipping them after going through the damage tiles and finding nothing but empty barrels. And I'm not sure how things are ordered in the menu as compared to vanilla version, because some hacks will move your heal potions, and this one it's cure potions, and your pure potions up to the front, because that's, or up to the top, because those are the items you're going to be using, so you don't have to be navigating to the bottom of your menu to use heal potions, while things like the rod and the loot are hanging around up in the top of your menu. And there's the crystals or the orbs in the wall. I'm not sure what we're looking at there. It's a nice touch. They tend to be over treasure chests, but they're not always over treasure chests. Here's more gargoyles. Now that I know this particular encounter set is runnable, I'm going to get out of here because, as you see, 4 hits, 4 damage. Gargoyles can hit you hard if they go after those mages with lower defense. And there's another house. So the Marsh Cave layout is drastically changed because in the NES release, there is a massive square room that's very disorienting. That has a series of rooms with treasure chests in them of varying quality. Some of them are locked by the Mystic Key. Most of them are open. There's an iron armor that I don't actually need because I did pick that one up, but I'm glad I got the other one before because that saved me from some damage from those gargoyles. So it was worth it for me to lose a couple hundred gold on that deal. These are some bombs that look very Final Fantasy IV plus-ish. They look like the iconic bombs that would become part of Final Fantasy lore. There's another copper bracelet. It's another one I don't need, but I'm glad that I picked up the other two in Elfland. I had the money, and I'm glad I had that defense. Here's another guarded chest. And that sprite there has a Final Fantasy IV look to it. That has a Final Fantasy IV Fiend feel to it, which I'm guessing is what Duke was thinking when he put that one in. Here the wizards go by Pisco Demon, which is a more common correction to their name, because they clearly are references to Pisco Demons. Although you notice that they do actually have some spells in this one. They cast Slow 2 on Sola there. So clearly that's been changed, because in vanilla they just attack. Despite being called wizards, they don't really have an AI routine. They just attack like crazy. Let me pull up their stats. So this one, not too bad. Yeah, they don't have any routine. They're just resistant to a few things. They're not actually weak to lightning. They just are not resistant to lightning, but they do resist fire and ice. And so there I pick up the crown, and on we go through these damage tiles. So I'm glad I took that detour up there, and I'm not sure where we're going now, but the massive square room that's very easy to get lost in has been changed to a more tunnel-like dungeon floor, which is a little bit more player-friendly. I should say a lot more player-friendly, because that big square room, because of the narrow field that you can see, is easy to get lost in, despite being just a big square. Because when you got into battles, it was always disorienting. It was difficult to remember which direction you were going. So there's a silver bracelet, which is a huge upgrade for my mages. That defensive bonus is massive. Let's take a look. So we've got, right now, 5 and 58 in terms of defense and evasion, and it's now 16. So that is a huge step up in absorb, when your absorb is just subtraction. And here's a chest that's guarded by a female character, and I have learned, this game has taught me, that when you have a chest with a sprite in front of it, you've got a battle coming, even though it looks like there is a friendly-looking female character standing in front of that chest, who says, "Come embrace death." She doesn't go with "You do not belong here," and it is a Lamia enemy, so that is a new one here. So I'm not sure if this Lamia is an analog to one of the Naga enemies in the vanilla version, so I'm not quite sure what to aim at. Ice 2, you can see, doesn't do a whole lot of damage. I shoot for mute, and I actually do silence the Lamia. That's just something that I took a stab at with the white mage, not knowing if the Lamia was resistant, and not really even knowing what the Lamia can do, but you can see she tried to cast fast on herself, and it failed. So there's mute coming out strong. Now I'm getting a little bit worried because I've kind of thrown everything I have at this thing, but I don't know how many hit points it would have, but I didn't have to be worried. Took it out. 300 experience for everybody, nobody dead. That's a really, really nice fight. Although I don't know how much deeper this dungeon goes, or how much longer my spell charges will hold up. Now here is a a new weapon, at least a new name weapon, the Cleric Hammer. Now, I'm assuming that that can be equipped by my White Mage, and it can. I'm also making a guess, and it's got decent attack at 21, 18 hit percent, but hammers are low percent anyway. Now, I'm assuming by the name that it has a property, that it has a spell to use in battle. I don't know what spell it is at this point. I'm guessing it's going to be a White Mage spell, because it's called the Cleric Hammer, or the Cleric Staff, the Cleric Mace. I'm guessing it's either a harm spell or some kind of defensive spell. She didn't get a chance to use it on that one. And looking at the sprites, actually I haven't seen the sprite for what White Wizard looks like, so I'm not sure whether to call the White Mage he or she. I may use both or either pronoun interchangeably with that. And I apologize if I get that one wrong. My earliest memories on this game, my earliest thoughts on it was that it was a female character until I got a good look at the White Wizard sprite, and I think the White Wizard sprite from the vanilla version is probably clearly a male character, although the debate continues, and I don't really care to get into it. But so here's another battle with the crawls and the deadheads, which I'm guessing are bones, although they seem to have more than 10 hit points. The bones in vanilla, I think, just had 10 hit points. If I remember, it seems like these folks have a little bit more. Now, I didn't use the hammer on that one because I wasn't quite sure what it was going to do, and I wanted to be more confident in knowing what the White Mage is going to do, so I went with Harm 2 on that round. I'm glad it fired, but then the White Mage got stunned by the crawls. So let's see if the Cleric Hammer fires this time, now that there's just one crawl left. And fire will go, and Sulla will finish the job. So we don't get a chance to see what the Cleric Hammer does in this battle. I'm hoping we can find out before we get out of the dungeon, because if it is a harm spell, I'm hoping to at least find out in a battle with undead, so I don't just get a spell that says ineffective, although I imagine I'll be able to tell if it bounces ineffective at me. So let's do it. Cleric Hammer. Let's see if it fires. And here, I don't use a multi-targeting one because I'm hoping to have one alive for a casting of the Cleric Hammer. And Sulla will go, but it's not enough to take out the ghoul. So there, the Cleric Hammer does hit the ghoul for 50 damage. So my guess is that the Cleric Hammer casts Harm 1 at this point. Now, the Light Axe in the vanilla version, here we have the sound again. The sound glitch again took out my music from saving. And it's back with the battle, although we're ambushed. The Light Axe casts Harm 2, but that one looks like Harm 1, unless that was at an extremely low roll on Harm 2. Something else to talk about is I'm not sure if the spell doubling has changed in using items versus casting the spell. One of the ways that Final Fantasy Restored worked on making mages more effective is that they used the intelligence stat to improve the chances to double a spell damage, to the 2-hit roll of damage spells or status spells. But that intelligence bonus was not applied to using magical items, which only makes sense because you could have a fighter using those magical items, and you would think that a mage casting a spell and a non-magic user using an item to cast that spell, the mage would be a little bit more effective with it. That's at least the thought of the Final Fantasy Restored version. This one, I am not sure what they chose to do with that, if anything. In the vanilla version, the intelligence stat just didn't work at all. It just didn't function. It had no function that anybody could ever find. And it was so bugged that it was unclear exactly how they wanted it to function, how it was even supposed to function when the designers sat down and put this game out on paper. That's how far away they were on that. But magical items there isn't really a difference in casting or magical items. But I don't know if that's changed in this one. So it could be that was a harm 2 that just didn't double on the undead there. Because I think the very lowest harm 2 can do is 40. But that could be wrong. I would need to double check that. I may have gotten that wrong. But now we're just going to sell some of the extra loot that we picked up. And we're pretty well equipped going forward. We do need to pick up the haste spell. So the next order of business in the vanilla version, and it will be in this one, is to go to the Northwest Castle, which has been hinted to a couple of times. And we're going to take on Astos, who also has been mentioned by name. And I can't remember in the vanilla version if Astos actually gets mentioned by name before you run into him. Maybe he does. Maybe he does. But we know what's waiting for us up there at the Northwest Castle. It's Astos, who stole the crown and also ransacked the treasure room. Here's the ghasts again. And there's the cleric hammer. 32 and 62 on those enemies, so that lends more credence to it being harm 1. Because again, I believe the lowest possible roll on harm 2 is 40. I think it's higher than 32 for harm 2. So, cleric hammer, I think we have a free casting of harm 1, which is very nice to have at this point in the game. Normally, we are in the vanilla version, we would be a long, long way from having any access to a weapon or armor that had a spell function in battle. Thinking about it, I think the first one you pick up is the mage staff. The first one you could get to would be the mage staff, and the Zeus gauntlet in the Castle of Ordeals. So here's taking a look at the Northwest Castle. It's a lot brighter in here. Nice colors. Good choice on the palette. Again, things don't look quite as decrepit in this one as they do in the vanilla version of Final Fantasy. So the Northwest Castle and Temple of Fiends, the way the tile sets have been changed. Here's a Mystic Key locked door. Things don't look like they're falling apart as much. Here is Astos, King of the Dark Elves. Give me that crown now. So that's very similar, if not identical text. And here's another boss sprite that has not been changed, and I am glad that the boss sprite hasn't been updated for this one, because that's also a kind of iconic boss sprite, although the game does reuse the sprite layout with a different color scheme. There's death, there's the rub spell, and it did land, unfortunately. Here's the mute spell. Let's see if I can get it on him. I missed it. Astos is a tough cookie to normally land that on, so we will see what we can do. But yeah, Astos will, in the vanilla version, he will start with rub most fights. I think he has a 2/3 chance or more to start with rub. So a lot of those will start with rub. But as you can see, it's no big loss. Solo will still get that experience. So this is normally if you're trying to keep an even experience party. Stolen Crown and the Ball Made of Crystal, those I think are the same text that's in the vanilla version. But normally if you're trying to keep an even experience party, this is where you lose it, because Astos will take someone out on most attempts. So if you are really, really interested in that, you can keep re-rolling that battle until he uses something else on that first round, or he dials up rub and it misses. But again, not a huge deal. In this one here, I'm testing Temper. Weapon strengthened. I'm going to see if it works just because I'm on my way back to the inn. Now, another thing about Astos is that he has in the vanilla version, he has a very, very high physical absorb. I think it's something like 68. physical absorb. So at this point of the game, most of your physical fighters, let's see how much damage we get here. 2 hits, 134 with no crits, so temper definitely works. That definitely works. After a couple of tempers, 2 hits for 134 without a crit is massive damage. So that's good. We know that temper works, and when we combine that with fast, we are really going to get messy. So normally Astos is much better taken out with damage magic, with black magic. And solo attempts at Astos are often taken out by, if they're a physical fighter, they're often taken out by Astos because they just can't get through his defense without critical hits. So I'm going to forego Elfland because I think I have everything I need for this next part of the trading sequence. Here is the Scylla enemy in the sea, which I don't think we've seen here on the video series. I believe that those take the place of the shark enemies. In fact, I'm almost sure because I think the experience is the same. I think it's 66 gold and 66 experience each. It's 66 times 4 shared. But I think these are the shark enemies. And I'm not sure where that sprite comes from, or actually where that name comes from, Scylla. I don't know if that's being a Final Fantasy V nerd. I don't know if that's a reference to Sildra, the sea serpent. And I would be curious to see what names we have for the gray shark. So this is the cheaper clinic to bring back the monk. And I can use the cheaper inn here, although the prices of everything seem to be balanced a little bit better, so they're balanced differently. So the Elfland inn does not cost 100, and the clinics don't ramp up in price quite so much. So the gold curve has been flat. It's not as steep in this hack, which is another player-friendly part of this one. Here we have the Remora enemies, which I believe are the Odd Eyes, but they have more hit points than the Odd Eyes. They can take more damage, because you can see that one took 43. I think the Odd Eyes only have 10. I think they're pretty fragile in the vanilla version. But the Remoras do use Gaze, which can paralyze you if it lands, like the Odd Eyes. But the Bolt 2 will clear the board. So we're okay on that one. I had not had any too bad experience with the Remoras. But again, that sprite is another kind of snake demon sprite that I'm not sure where it comes from. So the imps are now no longer worth fighting. So I'm just going to get out of those battles. But we're still a few levels away from the imps actually running from us in fear. Before their morale is too low to stay in the battle with us. So when we're walking around these early areas, we're still going to be finding imps and wolves and wargs, which are the gray wolves. And other places you have the werewolves, which have the annoying poison ability. So I don't think I noted when we first visited Matoya's Cave, there are no treasure chests here. Here's the trade for, we give her the crystal eye, she gives us the herb, and that, I think, is right out of the vanilla version. She says, you have no more business here, go. And here the Moogles take the place of the brooms that talk backwards. They give you a hint as to how to access the map of this game when you're on the world map. But normally there are three treasure chests in here that are around all those skulls that are on the floor, and I think it's something like 2 heal potions and 1 pure potion, so it's not major, but in the very early part of the game, when you will have just come from the Temple of Fiends, that chunk of money is actually pretty significant. So 2 heal potions at 60 each, and a pure potion at 75, that couple hundred gold is pretty significant. When you're still fighting battles with imps that are only giving you 30 and 40 gold a battle, almost 200 gold it's as much as, an ogre will get you 195 will get you that 2 heal potions and a pure. And you will have just crossed into a part of the world where you can run into ogres. So that was interesting to note, and that must have just been a balanced choice in that. Without having played through the rest of it, it's hard to really critique the difficulty curve. But so far, it's I would say the difficulty curve is flatter than in the vanilla version, especially the Marsh Cave. The Marsh Cave has been made a lot more player-friendly. It's still not easy, and I'm a bit over-leveled for what a player probably would do on that, and that's on purpose because when I make these videos, I don't like to die a lot when I'm making videos with commentary. Here, the same thing. You have to give the herb not to the prince himself, but to his attendant. Then you have to go talk to the prince, and he gives you the key. So, going on to the next video, we're going to be going to the trading sequence, sorry, not the trading sequence, the collectathon. We've done the trading sequence, we're now going to the collectathon. So we will be using our Mystic Key to collect all the good stuff and move on to, if this is set up like the vanilla version, Melmond and the Earth Cave.